Hello, everyone. This is Cypress Bay Model United Nations. And due to popular demand, we are going to be making an e-conference tutorial specifically on Zoom and how to use it. This is a new thing for a lot of people. And after conducting a couple of conferences, we truly think we have a system that works. And we want to give everyone the opportunity to use it so we can keep the MUN community vibrant and well during this time of crisis. So with that, I'm going to be leading you with Rachel, which is going to be talking about in-room, and then I will follow up with out-room for those who are interested in doing crisis.
Right. So one of the first functions that you want to have when you're doing in-room or you're chairing a conference is being able to identify who represents which country. So a good way to do that is with the renaming function. So for example, here, I'm going to use the rename function to name Joey to a country. Right. So now that we're ready to call attendance, one of the ways that you can use to do voting procedures or just passing any motions or choosing on delegates to make a motion or give a speech is the raise hand function. So can everyone please raise their hand? And the way you would do that for those of you who would not be the host is you would go to participants and there would be a button here in the bottom right that would say raise hand. So for example, here we can see that Spain, Poland, Lithuania, Commonwealth, Uzbekistan, China, and Chad, here they're all raising their hands. And at any point in time during the conference, you can always lower all of their hands if maybe you're done calling for motions or if you've already chosen them. Another function that you can do is when someone is giving a speech, you can mute everyone else. So for example, here I'm going to mute everyone. And then now, for example, let's say Uzbekistan, you now have the floor. So they can just go ahead and unmute themselves. Or for example, I can unmute them like that by pressing this unmute button, and then it'll give them a notification and then let them choose if they want to be unmuted or not. And you can also use the unmute function when someone's time is up for a speech and then they don't have any more time to talk. Let's see, what else? Other functions that can be used is, for example, the breakout rooms, which can be used when you're making a block. So for example, how you would make breakout rooms is you scroll to the bottom of the toolbar and there's a breakout rooms option. And let's say I want to make 2 breakout rooms, right? So those would be 2 blocks. And then I want the breakout rooms to have, in the first one, it would be Chad, Poland, Spain. And then the second breakout room would be China and Uzbekistan. And then you can open all rooms and it would give them an opportunity to go to that room. But I'm going to close all rooms for now. So that's how you would organize unmoderated caucuses. As for other features for hosting a conference, you can also do your share screen. So like this, for example. And in this case, right here, I would be sharing, this is the scoring sheet that you can use where you can keep track of who's been present or present in voting. You can keep track of who has made motions, who's passed motions, the amount of speeches that people have given. So that way you can just be more fair as a chair overall. Another thing that I would recommend is to have a Google Doc that just has all of the motions and points that people have made. And here you can display the speaking list so that people can see when they need to speak. And then if I scroll down a little here, you can see these are the breakout rooms that I had for my last conference. So this is a very helpful way to organize your blocks and how you can put them in breakout rooms. Something else that I would recommend having while you're chairing is a timer. So that way you can decide how long someone is speaking, and then when the timer is up, it'll make a noise on its own and it'll let the delegate know that they're done speaking. And those are pretty useful functions. Something else that you can do is if an individual delegate has a question and they want to ask you, or if they want to be added to speakers list, they can go on the chat function and they can private message you. And as a chair, you can choose on Zoom to either message everyone like this, or you can choose to message any individual like this. And it would go to them privately and they would see that. And I believe that is everything that we have for in-room functions.
All right. Hello, everyone. For those who are interested on the outroom functions, so this would be specifically for people who are interested in doing a crisis, organizing a crisis mock. I'm going to be explaining some of the logistics required for that in the Zoom, using the Zoom application. So one thing that involves outroom is the breakout room. And so what we would do here specifically is that we would have different people act as kind of supervisors, and they would go into break rooms during unmoderated caucuses and see what other people are doing inside of blocks that would be organized through the different breakout rooms. And this is simply just to ensure that everyone is doing what they are supposed to be doing, as we've seen a lot in the past that it is often useful to do that, and just to make sure that everything is going the way it should be. So right now you have your breakout rooms, and for example, assuming that perhaps Chad is one of the members of the secretariat, if I wanted to specifically assign them to a room, for example, breakout room 2, I could move them here and then put them into breakout rooms. And as explained by Rachel, you can open breakout rooms and then close them whenever you please. Another thing that you can do, especially in something that you would like to do if you are a staff inside of a unmoderated caucuses, you could go to the share screen function, and then you can go specifically to your timer. It allows the people inside of an unmoderated caucus to understand how much time is left. So then you can give them specific markers. So you're keeping down your time, and let's say, for example, you're now at 2 minutes. You can see that 2 minutes have elapsed, and then the delegates that are inside the unmoderated caucus can know when to conclude their speaking or their conduct within the unmoderated caucus. In addition, something that we do specifically is we have a main document as crisis staff that we use in order to plan everything out. So for example, this is from a mock that we did before, the Suez Canal crisis specifically. And what we have here is just the assigning of the secretariat right here. We have a general formatting of how we would like delegates to write their crisis note, and this would be referred to them before conference begins. We would have, for this is a joint crisis committee, so we have different sides, and here we have the UK colonizer side, and then I have a list of the different positions, and then we write very brief notes about their crisis notes. So for example, here for number 4, I have crisis note 1, crisis note 2, crisis note 3, and through there we can just have a keep track of the different arcs that they're doing. You want to make sure with crisis staff that you're being very organized, that you're keeping note of everything, and having a main doc to do that has been very useful, and I would recommend you do that in a Zoom experience, but also outside of that. In addition, we have an email system. So in order for them to write their crisis notes, instead of doing it on a piece of paper, which they can't, obviously, they would go on Gmail and they would send an email. And through this email, they would use the format shown here, the crisis note format. And then we would respond to them through a reply on that specific thread. And what we would do in order to keep things organized is once we read the email, the crisis note, we will click the star so that we are aware that that crisis note has been read, as sometimes when there's a huge demand and there's a lot of crisis notes getting in, things can get messy, so it's always important to be very organized there. And in terms of outroom things, that is all I have.